There are several challenges to adopting children and fostering them who are of a different race than you. Let's talk about it with my wife inside. So you get the call from your foster care agency and they have a child for you that's of a different race or ethnicity. Who cares anyway? Should you care?
Well, it's something that you would have to talk to whoever you're involved with, whether it's your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, whoever is going to help you out with fostering to adopt. You definitely need to be on the same page,
Right.
agreeing. You also need to think about how you are going to deal with a situation of someone bringing it to your attention that, obviously you have a child that's a different race. um I've had many times where I've had people in the store, like as we're walking around with the kids, make comments, and they, try to do it under their breath, but it's loud enough where you can hear, and it's loud enough where the children can hear. um so that in itself, you have to think about, like, how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to respond? Are you going to respond? Are you not going to respond? And then if you do respond, how do you respond? Because the children are right there, and
Mm.
you don't want them to feel bad. You don't want them to be upset about it. You want to try to make it seem like it's not really anything at all, like whatever, they just, said something to you and that's it. Because then after, when you get in the car, get out of the store, they're going to question you as to what the person said, what happened, why did you look that way, why did they say this? And then you have to have a whole conversation with them about, how certain people don't agree with, how your situation is. That you're a mixed race family and they're going to say nasty things. In our children's case, they're all African American, so we've had the conversation with them about, how a lot of people are prejudiced and they don't like black people for whatever reason. It doesn't matter how nice you are, what you look like, whatever, they just don't like black people and they're going to be nasty to you. um so that they understand, like, when somebody says something, it's not your problem, it's their problem, they have an issue, and you don't need to, respond to it. You don't need to make a big deal about it. You just, okay, whatever, you have a problem, and keep it moving. So that's how we've kind of approached it with the kids, but you have to make sure that
Mhm.
you're comfortable with anything that could come at you because of that. If you're not, then it's not a good idea to take a child of another race, because regardless of the child's race, regardless of your race, you're going to have people making comments and trying to, cause problems, get you upset, that kind of thing. And it happens a lot more than you would think.
Your children aren't just in your home. You're in public. You go to parks. You're doing everything you would do with your child, especially if they're gonna be there for a long time, or if you're adopting. Like, we adopted our children, so they're with us forever. Family uh, issues. Your the grandparents, the your extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. How accepting can you expect your family to be, or should you know already, really?
Well, you could probably tell who's more accepting and who's not. I'm sure in every family you're going to find somebody that's not okay with it. That doesn't mean that it's a prejudiced person, but it could mean, like, they're just not comfortable with you, having a child of another race. Maybe because, like, you how, it's been said to us that you can't really teach that child about their culture. You don't know anything about their culture.
Mm,
You haven't lived, what their ancestors have lived. So how can you make them understand this and this and this and all of that kind of stuff? It could be because of that. It could be because, just the difference. And nobody, that person isn't okay with it. I would say I would, start letting people know if after you have a conversation with your significant other, if you're definitely deciding that you're going to take a child of another race and you're open to it or okay with it, I would start talking to family members, start talking to friends, see where they stand, see what their reaction is. So that way, kind of what you're going to deal with. Now that may change your mind to not do it, but it may change your mind to do it because more people may be accepting than what you think. But it's definitely a situation where you have to kind of feel it out. I have a couple people in my family that when I was growing up were very prejudiced. As we've gone through the process, I've not had a problem with them saying anything about our kids races or any of that. I've not had to have the conversation with them. I chose not to have the conversation with them ahead of time because I knew that they had a problem with it. So I took the approach of like, okay, we're just going to do this, and either you're going to be in or you're going to be out, and that's your decision. You're open to have whatever decision you want, but if you choose to be out, then you're out for good. I'm not doing this. You feel comfortable this day and you don't feel comfortable that day, or you're going to be prejudiced this day and this day you're going to say, oh, I have cute kids. Like, no, we're not doing all this because we're not confusing my children. So it's either
mm.
you choose whether you're in or you choose whether you're out. That may make you decide not to do it, because if a bunch of your family members and friends are like, oh no, we're not comfortable with this, you may change your mind. You may not.
Yeah, and would you say for someone who is just getting into foster care or is just had children of the same race, the same religion as them, um, know what you might be getting into, that these challenges are real. This is, we're not making
Well,
this
you
up.
have to understand right off the bat, everyone is different. So if you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're open to taking
Mm,
children of a different race, you're always going to have somebody commenting somewhere. You're always going to have
mhm.
somebody not agreeing. I mean, just the fact, to be honest, that you adopted a child, period.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't open to that either. So people will have comments about that. Like, everyone has an opinion about everything all the time. You have to get to a point with this kind of thing of fostering to adopt that you shut everybody's opinion out and you do what
Mm.
you are comfortable with. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to get through this whole process. You're just not. It's just, you literally have opinions and comments coming at you from every direction all the time.
What do you think about okay, so DCP&P, in our case in New Jersey, they are they calling, do you think, the black parents first if they have a black child, Muslim parents first if they have a Muslim child? Do you think they're calling the different race people when they've run out of others? How do you think, or what have we been told about that, if anything?
I don't think, um,
Do they even care?
in the way of race, if you're open to it and that's something that you put on your list that you're okay with, I don't think that they're calling, like, if you had a black child, I don't think they're calling every black foster family first before they go down the list to a white or an Asian family, or, no, I don't think so.
Mhm.
And to be honest, they don't have the number of homes to do that. So it's kind of like you have a list of people that are open and have an available spot to take a child, and okay, you're okay with taking a different race. Oh, this child's a different race. Here we go. We'll call you. Um,
Right.
I have heard though, like when it comes to religion, if it's like a very strict religion, like I've heard in a case of a child being Muslim, they did try to find a Muslim family for that child
Mhm.
to go to, um because religion is a little bit harder than
Okay.
race, because like if you're a Jehovah's Witness, there's a certain way that they do things. They don't celebrate holidays and things like that. Muslim is the same way. They have different things in their culture that they do that not everybody else does. So in that way, you would have to be okay with changing your lifestyle for this child. And a lot of people are not
Mm,
open to that kind of a big change when it comes to religion. So that is like a whole different category.
right.
But race, I know they don't just, oh, okay, we have to call this certain kind of race family first. I know
Mhm.
they don't do that. There's no way. They would never find homes for anybody if they were that picky trying to go through everything.
Yeah, they basically have a shortage, is what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying. Yeah. So, what about challenges with the kids themselves? They know they're a different race than you. It's pretty obvious. They know they're black. You don't really have to tell them. Um, are there challenges for them too? In our case, are you going to hear the N word? Are you going to hear? Are they going to pick friends that are black friends just naturally because maybe people are tribal anyway? What can people expect in kind of that regard?
In our case, because all three of our kids were adopted or fostered and adopted young, they don't care. They understand, like we've had conversations with them. They understand that, our skin's white, their skin's black. They even understand, which I found pretty funny, that they talk about a lot, is like, I'm blacker than you, or I'm lighter than you, so I'm more white than you. Like it's just funny, like how they think of it. Um, but they understand that, they're a different race than us. But we've explained that, everyone's heart, the inside of your body is the same. Everyone bleeds red. There's no difference. Like there's, the color of your skin doesn't really matter. Um, but they do have issues where, like, certain friends will like question, like, how come your mom and dad are white and you're black?
Uh-huh.
So like we had to make sure that like they understand people are not nice. People, some people may say things in a nice way and try to be nice. And that's a friend, just, curious about why are your parents white and why are you black? That, and if it's a kid, they don't understand. But people are not always saying things like that to be nice. A lot of them may not agree with your situation, may not agree that you're black and you're with a white family.
Uh-huh.
And they may say mean things to you, but that's, again, their problem. You can choose to deal with it, or you can choose to walk away. You can be friends with them, or you can decide not to. In the case of using the N word, we've explained to them, that's in our, the way we think of it, that's not a
Right.
nice word. Um, and there are a couple other curse words that I don't think are nice and anybody should ever be called either. So we've gone down the list of, these are things that are not okay to say, because if you say these things to the wrong person, you can end up getting in a fight, you can get hurt, you can get even shot, like if you're older, that kind of thing. So if you're going to
Uh-huh.
use those words, then you need to understand what could come about because of that and be ready for it. um I don't think that because our kids are black, that they are more comfortable or that they search out black friends, because our kids have a, a wide variety of different race friends.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think, I mean, at least I haven't seen that with our kids. Um but you, like, going into this with from the kids' point of view, like, you as a parent have to make sure that you explain these things to them, that you prepare them for when these situations come up, even from when they're little, because they're always, just like you now, always going to have to deal with this. They have to become comfortable with it, because if they're not comfortable with it, you're going to have a child that's going to be traumatized every single time somebody says something, and that's going to send them spiraling, and that's not something that's okay to have to live with. So if you don't do your work as a parent to explain these things and prepare them for, these things can happen, or, even up to the point of, like, when they get older with dealing with the police, or, how you respond to higher authority, or that kind of thing. Like, you have to have those conversations. You have to understand that that's going to be your life.
Right. Okay, so with the police, have our children, just to be honest with someone watching, have they said anything about the police, anything negative that you think they might have heard from somebody else or child? You would think, well, no, I'm just growing up, but what's the reality?
Well, just like any child, as you get older, you get to an age where you're testing the boundaries constantly, and boundary testing ends up being different as they grow. I've had our boys a couple of times say, there goes the pigs, and they want, they're going to get the donuts and things like that. And that's when you have to sit down and explain, like, that's just ignorant. That's not a good thing, regardless of what color you are, to ever say. The police will help you when you need help, which we've recently had a case where our son has, had some mental health struggles and has run away. And he sees that, like, yeah, the police are good. The police sat in my house for 2 hours talking to me, trying to explain to me how, being a 10-year-old can be tough, but, like, you have to follow the rules. You have to do what you have to do. You can't just say, oh, I want to do this, and I'm old enough, and I'm going to tell you off, and I'm going to go do what I want. And no, like, 2 hours of their time to sit there and explain that. Like, that's not a bad person. That's not a bad police officer. And there were 3 of them at the time that were here trying to talk to him. So they see that, they do see it both ways when they're hanging out with their friends. I'm sure they have comments and things that are not so great to say, but they understand, like, you don't say that to a cop. If you are to, like, if you're with the wrong crowd and the cop comes up to you, and, okay, everyone, is in handcuffs or whatever, and they're trying to figure out what really happened, and you're with, you're in with these bad kids that did something wrong, even though you didn't, you don't start mouthing off like, oh, I did nothing, and, flip out and use those words, things like that. You can't, you just can't, because you might have somebody that, just like a normal person, doesn't like your color of skin and may decide to take it further.
Right. I want to end with a bonus one that is very interesting, but a challenge nonetheless. Hair. Um, we have a girl and we have 2 boys, but black hair, evidently, as I learned, is different than white hair. So, how do you deal with that challenge? So that you don't get people commenting, oh, you don't know how to do their hair. I mean, can you find it on YouTube, for instance?
Well, you're
How to
always
do it.
going to have people comment that you don't do their hair right to whatever their standards are, or whatever. Again, you just have to let it roll. Like, people are going to say what they want to say, and whatever. um I have had DCP&P workers question me on how I'm going to do their hair. And do I know, the products to use, and do I know the right products to use? Like, just being ignorant, to be
Mm,
honest, themselves. Yes, you can look on YouTube, you can look on TikTok, like any media or social media outlet, you can find information on how to do whatever hairstyle you want. You can look up different hairstyles, you can look up information and tutorials on how to do the different hairstyles. There's different reviews on different products. Again, just like any other product, doesn't matter what color your skin is or what your hair looks like.
right.
Some things will work for you, and some things won't. So you have to, take that into consideration. But like, just to learn how to do hairstyles, learn how to take care of black skin, because black skin does dry out. So you have to use a lot of moisturizer every single day. Um, Same thing with their hair. There's certain things that you can use, certain things that you can't. You want to take care of their hair the right way, because you don't want their hair to break, because then it will have trouble growing back. So these are all things that, like, being a white woman, when we got our children for fostering to adopt, a couple of the DCP&P workers would, like, over question me, because
Mm,
I'm a different race, and how am I going to know how to handle their hair? How am I going to know how to take care of them? Oh, nobody takes a bath, or shower, nobody
mm,
uses soap. Like, it's so stupid, but to be ignorant. But they will come and they will ask you a questionnaire once a month, and if you do have children that are a different race, in
mm.
that questionnaire, they will ask you about how you're introducing them to their Black culture, how you're,
Right.
teaching them Black history, what you're doing with their hair. Are you showing them these things? Do they think that, like, this stuff, or do they realize that, like, you're looking it up on YouTube? Like, that even matters. Like, I'm learning how to take care of my child, period, end of story. So again, you'll always have, some ignorance in there somewhere. So be ready for it.
Yeah, so those are the challenges. I think we listed 5 of them, to be very honest, if we went through the list there with us. Um, if you're thinking of adopting or fostering a child from another race, this is really good advice from my wife about how we did it, and the things to know ahead of time, because the challenges are real. If you like this content, please like the video, please subscribe, please leave your comments below. If this topic was of particular interest,